As young leads and supervisors, do you look at yourself as a teacher or a trainer? Do we know the difference, really? That's one of the questions I'd like to explore here today. I'm Marty with Warehouse and Operations as a career, and I'm wondering if we don't confuse the two maybe way too often. You know, one of the things I loved about elementary school was the lunch. For those squares of pizza and the squares of fish, those were my favorite. And I don't remember a lot about the day-to-day activities, but I can remember that I liked recess. Dodgeball out in the courtyard seems to have made quite the impression on me. Ever smell that red rubber latex smell when you see that type of a ball? How many times did you take a direct hit to the nose? Or how many times did you deliver one to an opponent? Anyway, in school, our teachers taught us. They did not train us, right? We teach to learn, train to experience. I was venting to a CFO this week, and she threw out that bit of wisdom. I was venting because I felt like, I believed some trainers, especially very tenured or people that felt tenured, were taking on the role of psychiatrist and teacher even. You know, I teach a warehousing class. It is a classroom setting. I start by getting to know a little about everyone, what they've done and why they're here. What are some of their long-term and short-term goals? I want to know what their expectations are for the class. What do they want to get out of it? I usually start out by the first thing we do is cleaning up our social media. Kind of a step that is overlooked by so many job seekers. I explain what needs to be on our resume. We actually help the students build a resume. I share how to handle the phone interview. And of course the key words needed to get that job. Then we go into each position. I talk about what an unloader is and what they do, what the receiver position is going to be responsible for, and how the pallet runner then runs the tagged or received pallets from the front docks to the aisles for his or her forklifts to put away. Then we break down what a put-away forklift operator does and how the next step in the chain switches us from the inbound duties into the outbound world. You know, order selecting, probably the most coveted warehouse position there is. I love talking about the order selector's job and those responsibilities and why it can pay so well. Anyway, that's our next step. And then we move on into the replenishment forklift duties and the loader's job. I also discuss the sanitation and inventory control positions. I think it's a great class and helps explain the many positions of warehousing. Now, when giving this class, I teach to what these positions are. I explain why each position exists and how it connects to the next. Let's check out Merriam-Webster real quick. You know how I like running to the dictionary. It states to cause to know something, to impart the knowledge of, to accustom to some action or attitude. That's kind of interesting, right? The second part of the class, I say second part, it actually stands alone as well. Anyway, we then go out into the warehouse where we train to each of the positions mentioned above. Hands-on, we train how to stack an inbound pallet using the proper tie and high. Using a breakdown sheet to segregate items in different pallet configurations. Then we receive those pallets, checking the counts and verifying the products, entering them into the system, and completing the bill of lading. We train how a pallet jack works, all of its controls, what each one does, and how to operate it. We send each candidate through their pit training and explain the importance of understanding safety at all times. Then we train to the put-away task, how to place pallets into the reserves, the hazards and cautions relating to the task. And then order selecting and how to properly stack our product on our pallets, how to tie freight together and not just column stack it. I love training to this position. We get to experience productivity and competition with one another. Yep, and then we train how to do a replenishment. Pull the existing empty pallet, move it out of the way or stage it with our other stacks. Bring the new or full pallet down from the reserves and properly and securely place it in the pick or selection slot. I really enjoy training how a forklift works and how to operate it. And then we do the same with loading, inventory control, and all the sanitation position. It's kind of hands-on. Let's check out dictionary.com on what they say that the word train means. To develop or form habits or behavior by discipline and instruction. To make proficient by instruction and practice. What is it that we learned a little earlier? Teach to learn and train to experience. I tell clients every week that I can teach you or an associate how to be safe on equipment and while in the warehouse. And all the, whats, hows, and whys, and train the same to how to perform the position or operate the machine or equipment. But it's the experience that will complete their training, proficiency, and their performance. Okay, I strayed a little bit, but I think those are some examples we can understand as, being young leads and supervisors. It's important that we know the difference. Where I wanted to go with all this is, yes, training and being a trainer, it is a part of our positions. But I feel we have to know the difference too. Are we teaching them with documented facts and accepted practices? And are we training them the proper way, following all of our company's standard operating procedures? Are we training them to how we do the job? There is a difference. And that's not a good thing necessarily. Leaving our opinions and thoughts out of it or keeping them to ourselves is the hardest part of teaching and training. Would anyone disagree with that? But it is imperative that we can or that we do. If you can't commit to that, well, frontline management may not be for us. I was speaking with a trainer that I work with, Chris. He's actually an OSHA outreach instructor as well, and I'll try to get him on the show sometime in the near future. He had a great sentence to add to my thought process. Teaching presents new knowledge, while training is the application of knowledge to develop the skill set using various techniques and experience. We talked about how our bad habits as leads and soups, if we teach or train to them, can and most likely will lead to issues, accidents, and injuries. I mean, if we bend the rules a bit ourselves, just to get it done a little easier or a little, quicker, haven't we really just failed our team? Over the last several weeks, we've talked about being a trainer. Whether in title or just a responsibility that we all bear working in a warehouse. One of the objectives here at WAOC is safety, of course, and advancement and opportunities. So back to the point I wanted to make 10 minutes ago. I feel I'm, seeing businesses hiring again. I've seen 48 different positions filled just this week, and it's exciting. And I, for one, can't wait for things to, get back to some form of normal. That being said, though, we, leads and supervisors, are going to be doing a lot more training. We need to teach what needs to be taught and train to what needs to be trained. Leave our opinions and our own ways of doing things out of the classroom and off of the floor. I could see how as members of frontline management, we could have gotten a little lax over the last couple of months. Things have been slower than usual. Maybe we've had fewer team members or personalities to manage. Maybe we've been performing a lot of the tasks that others used to do. In any event, it's our responsibility to do things right. Teach others to be safe and train them how to do that. Oh, and I have one more quick question for today. As I was thinking about teaching and training this week, I found myself reflecting on strengths and weaknesses. How do you feel about yourself? What are your strengths and weaknesses? I try to evaluate mine about every 6 months or so. I've learned to live with a few weaknesses. I'm just not going to be able to change. Been trying for 30 years. But hey, recognizing them, it's a plus, right? And for strengths, well, I feel they help me grow as an individual. I try each week to move a couple of weaknesses over to the strength column. A little reflection, some self-education, and listening to others helps me accomplish that every week. Until next week, please reflect a bit and, teach and train your new boots with documentation and preferred work methods, not with opinions and bad practices. Remember, teach to learn, train to experience. Have a prosperous, productive, and safe week ahead, ladies and gentlemen.